Hello. I'm in the Bearing book. It's page 131. The Watchtower is at the portion of Acts 16 verses 35 to 40, which I will read in the Watchtower Silver Sword edition. When it became day, the civil magistrates sent the constables to say, "Release those men." The jailer reported their words to Paul. "The civil magistrates have sent men to have you two released. So come out now and go in peace." But Paul said to them, "They flogged us publicly, uncondemned, though we are Romans, and threw us into prison. Are they now throwing us out secretly? No, indeed. Let them come themselves and escort us out." The constables reported these words to the civil magistrates. These grew fearful when they heard that the men were Romans. So they came and pleaded with them, and after escorting them out, they requested them to depart from the city. But they came out of the prison and went to the home of Lydia. And when they saw the brothers, they encouraged them and departed. So this was the portion they're discussing on page 131 of the Bearing book, under the subtitle, "Are They Now Throwing Us Out Secretly?" So the only comment I wanted to make in the few paragraphs they have covering this material is paragraph 17. They state, if their rights as Roman citizens had been respected earlier, Paul and Silas might well have been spared the flogging. However, that could have given the disciples in Philippi the impression that the men had used their position to exempt themselves from suffering for Christ's sake. How would that have affected the faith of the disciples who were not Roman citizens? After all, the law would not shield them from floggings. Hence, by enduring punishment, Paul and his companions showed the new believers by example that followers of Christ are able to stand firm under persecution. So just recently, I heard of a sermon given at the annual meeting of 2025. And I just wonder how that matches up with this statement in the Watchtower. So this sermon was given by Mark Sanderson with promises of protection from this kind of persecution at Armageddon. So I've written down a few notes from Sanderson's sermon, and he promises Jehovah will perfectly deliver his people at Armageddon. And then he refers to Psalm 91, and he mentions verse 7. 1,000 will fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but to you will not come near. At Armageddon, he says, what type of protection will God's people experience? And then he refers to verse 1 of Psalm 91. Here, I'm going to just open to it in the Silver Sword as well. And read you that verse. Anyone dwelling in the secret place of the Most High will lodge under the shadow of the Almighty. He also refers to verse 5, which reads, "You will not fear the terrors of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day." So he asks the question, will God protect his people or deliver them perfectly from spiritual and physical attack? He promises physical protection for Jehovah's people at the War of Armageddon, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. So how does that square with what we just read about the apostles who were flogged and sent off? And many early Christians were persecuted to the point of even martyrdom. So this doesn't seem to square. So just to get our bearings, I think we should read the whole of Psalm 91. And remember, this is a song sung, written by one of Israel, and sung by Jews today, and all through the centuries. So would they make of it the same thing that you make of it? You place it as protection, a promise of protection for people at Armageddon. So even within the setting, it doesn't work. But I'll read you the whole of Psalm 91. Anyone dwelling in the secret place of the Most High will lodge under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to Jehovah, you are my refuge and my stronghold, my God in whom I trust. For he will rescue you from the trap of the birdcatcher, from the destructive pestilence. With his pinions he will cover you, and under his wings you will take refuge. His faithfulness will be a large shield and a protective wall. You will not fear the terrors of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the gloom, nor the destruction that ravages at midday. 1,000 will fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but to you it will not come near. You will only see it with your eyes, as you witness the punishment of the wicked, because you said, Jehovah is my refuge. You have made the Most High your dwelling. No disaster will befall you, and no plague will come near to you, to your tent. For he will give his angels a command concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. They will carry you on their hands, so that you may not strike your foot against a stone. On the young lion and the cobra you will tread. You will trample underfoot the maned lion and the big snake. God said, because he has affection for me, I will rescue him. I will protect him because he knows my name. He will call on me and I will answer him. I will be with him in distress and I will rescue him and glorify him. I will satisfy him with long life and I will cause him to see my acts of salvation. So some of these verses were familiar to me as a witness, as I think the one about the 1,000 and the 10,000 was a year text, I believe, one year. But the verse 11 and 12 about the angels being commanded concerning not even a stone hitting the foot was applied to Christ, we know, in the New Testament. But this is a song that was sung and still is sung regularly by the Jews, and it was written for them as a worship song. So we need to put the setting there, just in comparison to Sanderson's sermon. I tried to find some commentaries on Psalms. They're a little bit in a difficult spot in the house right now, so I couldn't find too many, or reach them anyway. So I've picked this one, which is by Kirkpatrick. It's A.F. Kirkpatrick editing the Book of Psalms, and I just thought just to read his comments on this particular psalm. He says, this exquisite psalm may no doubt simply describe the security of the godly man under Jehovah's protection amid the perils of his journey through life. But it gains in point and force if it is regarded as an address to Israel in the crisis of its history. So he then mentions Psalm 90, 91, and 92 are connected by several links of thought and language. It is natural to consider them as a group. If now Psalm 90 is the plea of Israel in exile, and Psalm 92 its thanksgiving for deliverance, may not Psalm 91 be the voice of faith assuring Israel that it will be safe in the midst of the calamities which are about to fall upon Babylon? As Israel was untouched by the judgments upon the Egyptians, which were the prelude to its deliverance, so it will be now before the exodus from Babylon. Jehovah's presence will defend his people in a day of distress. The promises of Exodus 23, verse 20 and onward, and Jeremiah's prophecies of Israel's deliverance from Babylon seem to have been in the psalmist's mind. So I would just ask you, who is honoring the text in their comments about this passage? I also remember when I first started reading commentaries, I do remember reading from Kirkpatrick before, and the use of the divine name, which I thought was, almost exclusive to witnesses, and yet I found it in many, many books, the name being used. So it's something that I think we just don't know when we're witnesses. I'm going to link to a video called Following the Lamb During the Great Tribulation. Are Jehovah's Witnesses or evangelicals prepared to be martyrs? I don't think Sanderson's sermon prepared you for that. Thanks for listening.